how to reduce the violence that is occurring within the United States and ultimately in the world. Initially, again, just to reiterate that we started off with dealing with gun violence and the area of guns, and realized that the gun is, my favorite quote, a inanimate object, but it takes someone to pick it up and use it as a tool to harm someone else. So we began to really see there's root causes behind why people will pick up a gun and shoot another person. And through our episodes, we've had people from the religious and the spiritual community come on and share with us how they have been dealing with the area of stopping the violence and what it took for them to show some sustainable and substantive results. We've had law enforcement, we've had mayors come on, we've had community activists. We have all sorts of people that came on, and it's been an incredible journey of hearing, listening, and coming into enlightenment of those different persons, areas, and avenues that they have been using that actually turn out to be what I call best practices. This week, we have another young guest that has gone through some prison reform his own self. He has been in the system and came out of the system and is starting to play and have played a very strategic role in the area of recidivism and the area of how to keep recidivism means you keep going back and forth, right? So how do you prevent those who have committed crimes not to go back into the system, and what may it take to do that? And we've had others who have discussed that, but we have a very special guest, a very interesting guest. His name is Brandon Fellows. And as you know, the topic of this particular subject that he is going to discuss with us is reforming jails and taking a bite out of recidivism. And Brandon is getting it done. He considers himself an activist and a change agent, which I like that. So without any further ado, we'll allow Brandon to come on and share his story with us. Brandon, young man, welcome. Glad to see you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, so share with us the avenues that you have taken and what brought you into the prison system. That's fine. And then what helps you to say, no, there needs to be some change, and I want to be a change agent to help make those changes.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, my name is Brandon Fellows. I was a business owner from upstate New York, owned a tree company and a chimney company. And up until the time that I was put into prison and arrested for a pretty popular event that is pretty contentious. I'm a January 6th defendant. And I actually just got out of prison on last Monday. I left Philadelphia prison, and I had actually been kicked out of 2 prisons, and I had been sent over to 11 different ones. I helped reform 2 different prisons, the DC jail and also Northern Neck, Virginia. Helped get other people kicked out, and also approved the PLRA, the Prison Litigation Reform Act of 1984, had been broken by the jails. While representing myself, studying the law in there, despite not having a law background. And that, long story short, for if you're unfamiliar with that, that allows you to be able to obtain remedies from the judges immediately by proving the PLRA has been exhausted or broken. And then it also allows people to be able to sue for damages. Typically, you have to go through a 4-step process to do all that. But it was definitely a long road. There was definitely a lot of difficulties with it. It was not fun, but something else that I've done that helped bring about a light to the conditions inside of some of the jails that I and many other people are in was I was able to sneak out video footage that actually ended up going viral through the Gateway Pundit. I was able to sneak out videos showing the conditions inside the DC jail, such as them not allowing inmates to leave their cells for sometimes up to 9 days at a time, not having their toilets fixed, black mold in the cells, roaches. It just was an absolutely terrible time, and lots of constitutional violations, such as no church services for years, not being able to visit your family for 2 years. So, yeah, I've definitely been a huge advocate, not just for the general inmate population, but it's trying to ensure that the stuff that I and others have gone through never happens again. And being in the jail, I've seen what a lot of people suffer with, what's keeping them down. But also, I believe I've also got to help build, and I'm actually living through that now, of what helps people get out. Because right now, I'm on probation in the DC area. And what really has been helpful is both something that I helped create and what others also jumped into creating, which is a community of people from across the country who have sought an active interest in helping people that get out of jail. So having been a business owner, I was financially well off, but after all the lawyer fees and everything else that I had to deal with the past 3 years, a lot of people leaving jail and prison, they may not have a community, or they may not have the ability to get out, as you guys are familiar with. And that is obviously a huge, something that will definitely be able to increase the chances of them going back in. So in our community, we have a lot of supporters out there. I've actually helped raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for people inside mostly January 6th defendants in this sense, for raising their lawyer fees. But anybody can do this stuff. They can write about, hey, if this person is from the inside or from the outside, everybody deserves a good lawyer. Sometimes these public defenders are overloaded with cases. A lot of times they're not meeting people. And I think one of the things that I really think is important, in the time constraints that we have here to talk, is building a community and being willing to reach out. God says he wants us to be able to reach out, to not forget about those in prison. And many people inside there that don't have the media presence that I or others have do not have that. They feel abandoned and alone. And I can't tell you how much, even just a letter, right? How far a letter can go to somebody in there showing support. But I mean, it can go much further than that. And I wanted to let you lead the conversation, to let you ask kind of, for your viewers, what you'd like to ask me about.
Yeah, thank you. I think you can share with us a little bit more in details of what what inspired you, what avenues that you felt that were remissed in the areas of helping people get out, stay out, and get the right, as you said, legal representation. Sometimes it's not easy. Who's there to help them formulate a letter? Maybe some of them might be illiterate, or they might not have the writing skills to be able to write such letters that will help them or help others really see and be inspired to help. Also, you said that you just got out. So just give us a little bit more of how you feel and how you feel that how far you will take this now that it's in your bloodstream of helping others.
Well, my current plan is I'm going to be heading back up to upstate New York in a year, but I wanted to at least focus down here I'm more so focusing on ensuring that the stuff that was done to us specifically is never done again. It was unconstitutional and it was terrible. It was extremely tough to deal with. Jail and prison is already tough to deal with, but not having the ability to go to church for years, not being able to see your family for 2 years, not being able to have haircuts or hygiene, and being under atrocious conditions was just, it's terrible for the mind, and a lot of people are not going to react a really good way. So I was kind of worried, I was constantly trying to, and I've seen a lot of people dealing with this too inside, worried, hey, how is this going to affect me when I get out? And really, I've had a good community out here. Just the second I got out, I've got fan mail from across the country and other countries, but most people don't have that. And so I think the reason I'm more likely to be successful out here is because of that community. But what's interesting is these are all people that I mostly don't know. and anybody can do this with whatever sort of community. And so, I mean, you guys, for instance, and the people listening could create, even like we have Telegram channels. We have a thing called Patriot Mail Project. You can create a thing where you have inmates from a certain location that you create pen pals, and you send them letters of encouragement. You send them Bible verses. You know, little things like that actually do go a long way. Because a lot of these people I see, they're seeing me get hundreds of things of mail sometimes, and they're not getting any. You know, and even just having the feeling like they're cared for will definitely go a long way. You know, if they're feeling like they're more accepted by society, I feel like they're less likely to rebel when they get back out, or they're less likely to reoffend or do something that could lead them back into the prison environment. So I know ours is a unique situation, but I've seen a lot of what was successful here, and it can be redone, but it requires people that are motivated. Our community is pretty motivated because a lot of them feel like we were, you know, in a situation that was wrong. You know, but it shouldn't even matter though. You know, people make mistakes regardless of what it is, and people should be able to feel like they have a second chance out there. And there are a decent amount of people in the prison. And, you know, it's just, I will say, having never been in prison before, I was very shocked to see just how broken it was. And also, yeah, there's just so much stuff. I hope I'm answering your question. I'm also, you got to keep in mind, they have us in solitary confinement for a bit. So a bit of scatterbrain too. So I hope I'm answering your question well enough.
You're doing a great job. How long were you there in the prison?
So I was in the DC jail from July 2nd, 2021 until I was kicked out, which was the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, 2022. That was for releasing the videos. I also had subpoenaed the DDA of the jail over there, Deputy Director of Administration. Her last name was Wilson. Unfortunately, we've got to also get other people, like we've got to advocate for, well, there's two things I really think that would be huge for the jail system. We need to have better guards in there, people that actually care about these people, and aren't just looking at them like, there are a lot of abusive guards in there. They don't, you know, these people don't care about them, about a lot of the people in there. They're not coming in there with the right mindset. And I know that's tough probably in this job market. But the other thing that I really think is hurting it the most is though I and others have brought massive reforms specifically to these two jails, there's a massive drug problem inside these jails. And I've seen an easy solution. I've seen these guards selling the drugs to these inmates. And I'd highly advocate, and I want to tell people, I think an easy solution is to have a third-party canine unit at the entrance for these guards. These guards bring in cell phones. They bring in, I mean, everything you could think of. If you have the right, and these inmates, some of these inmates are making thousands of dollars a week, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, getting these drugs, paying the guards. And I think an easy solution for that, get a canine unit from maybe the local police station that's not attached to the jail, and maybe some body cameras on all. That's all the other thing. We need body cameras on these guards. You know, there's a lot of corruption going on in there. And if they're going in there, some people that were never even on drugs before, they're in their most depressed time in their lives, and then they're more susceptible to take drugs. I've seen it plenty of times. So a couple things I would strongly advocate for to try to help out with the terrible situations that are happening across the jails that I've been to.
So when you say get kicked out, can you give us a description what that really means?
Yeah, so I was bringing up to my judge, I approved the Prison Litigation Reform Act as broken through a motion process that I filed while representing myself. Not having a law background, it didn't always go well for me, but this was really successful, and I was really irritated that the news didn't report it. You know, I feel like we kind of, the news has kind of been a little biased towards us. So the marshals ended up doing an external investigation along with the DOC, the Department of Corrections. And they ended up, my language in my motions was that the grievance process was broken in many ways. After about a 3-month investigation from December 16th, 2021 until March 16th, 2022, they ended up coming over and sharing, okay, they actually met me in person. Chief Anderson of the United States Marshal Services, he was in charge of, at the time, 55,000 pretrial detainees in the federal system. And they shared, hey, these things are broken. We're going to be, he knew that the DDA of the jail, Ms. Wilson, was going to be subpoenaed to the court. He foresaw that where there was going to be a lot of fixes brought immediately. There were only some minor changes done at that time, but like, for instance, they increased the amount of people that could go to religious services from 0 in the entire DC facility to 10. But that wasn't much because the place holds 1,400 and they did it through a lottery system. So we're supposed to have our First Amendment right, even in jail, even convicted prisoners are supposed to be able to have that. And it was improper for them to do that. But it was at least the start of bringing about that change. But the DDA showed up and lied about a lot of the conditions that were not happening. And I was very irritated because just because I'm wearing orange, the judge looked at me as if I was making this stuff up. So I was praying in my cell in solitary confinement, and a miracle happened. I got a laptop with a camera. And this is legal, by the way. We have the largest criminal investigation in American history. And so there's lots of discovery that the public has not been allowed to see. Electronic discovery. So we receive it in our cells to be able to go over it. Well, this particular one had been updated and they forgot to delete the camera. So I was able to video record and prove that I was actually suffering under the conditions that I had brought up. And then I wanted to release it to the media because it was clear to me, my judge, unfortunately, did not care too much. And when it was released to the media, that was when the guards started freaking out because I had also caught them, and this was more filed privately for my safety, because sometimes you can get attacked for if you're known for sharing that, shutting down any sort of drug trade in the jail. So I had to keep that to be safe, a little bit more quiet. But some of the guards did not take kindly to that, and I was attacked inside the DC jail, and I was pepper sprayed inside my cell, and I was fearful for my life, and I wanted to get someone's attention. So I began flooding the entire unit. And for 12 hours, I kept flushing it. I just was trying to essentially call for help. Eventually, the marshals moved me out of there, and I got to another jail. Now, the second reform, real quick, that I brought at that next jail, which was actually worse, Northern Neck Regional Jail, I did that a little differently because I was not as much in fear for my life over there. And I actually invited people to call a DC vigil. We actually have the longest running jail vigil that's ever been done over here in the DC jail. It's been about 665 days. I've helped orchestrate the Northern Neck Regional vigil by calling the DC jail up once I got to Northern Neck and said, hey guys, these conditions are worse. And let me tell you, I'm going to let you guys talk to the January 6th defendants and non-January 6th defendants and them tell you their stories. I collected a lot of information. Anytime I saw an incident happen, I'd write down the incident, the time, who saw it, get witness statements. I documented everything. Over the course of the month, some of our stories went viral on the media because we have media contacts. And that private institution ended up canceling the contract with the marshals, and he moved 20 of us out from that jail. Oh, and I forgot to mention this real quick. At the DC jail, we helped move 188 non-January 6th defendants out of there through our investigations because the marshals, when they were investigating the place, found out just some of these atrocious conditions they were under. Mayor Bowser of DC was not very happy to have that. It was actually supposed to be 400. So through her appeal, she lowered it down to 188. And that was actually shown right around November when they were held in contempt by a Judge Lambreth, November of 2021. So we've just not been accepting the way, the status quo inside the jails. We've been constantly seeking what to do, constantly not taking defeat, even if it's long, even if it possibly puts us at risk. And not all of us, but, some of us that are really fed up with it and motivated. And it's just crazy to see people with no law backgrounds, what can be done through that. And also this community out here. Anybody can do this. Anybody. I mean, I have Asperger's. If you guys are familiar, that's a high functioning form of autism. And I've not let that stop me from building businesses. I've not let that stop me from, bringing about the reforms. And I'm just pushing through. Anybody can do this.
Tell me, the backtrack, you said someone was held in contempt of court. What was that?
That is a judge. Yeah, that was Judge Lambreth. So there was a man named Christopher Worrell, a January 6th defendant, and he was suffering from lymphoma. The jail ended up lying about him receiving treatment for his cancer inside the jail. They ended up finding out that through the record, and then they held the jail in contempt, and that started one of the first investigations. And they started investigating, saying, "Oh, we found out that you lied through this." They went to go check out other inmates, and they said, "Oh, these people are sitting in, squalor conditions, just like I mentioned at the beginning. The toilets, some of which weren't flushing for days. Sometimes people weren't leaving their cells for weeks at a time." I know the Supreme Court, for instance, has said even people on death row, having them go through 22 hours a day inside a cell was seen as cruel and unusual punishment. And yet for pretrial detainees who are supposed to be presumed innocent and only held, for security purposes, besides that, they're supposed to still have as many rights as they can, as long as it doesn't threaten the security of the facility. They were definitely, they were held in contempt, and then they said, "We've got to move these inmates." Now, the big thing is, real quick on that, I've actually only helped one person over at the Northern Neck Jail who was one of those people that got kicked out. Because as I said, when the PLRA was proven broken, anybody that was under those conditions, while the grievance process is broken, can actually sue the jail without even having the typical thing that you are needed to have, which is proof of the grievances that you filed, the four-step process. And he actually took his first deal. He got a pro bono lawyer, and after it was all done, he got $75,000 from their first offer. And I'm actually meeting with a civil attorney today, even though I'm free later today for dinner. Sorry, you had a question? Or?
No, keep going. We're listening.
Okay. So I'm meeting with a civil attorney today who's a little bit more active in the community. She's actually more widely known and in the African-American community. Just because it's my experience, I think when I've approached them and told them about a lot of this stuff, I've kind of felt like they feel more comfortable hearing it from somebody else. And so I've brought this issue up to somebody else, and they said that they were going to be willing to help me, and we're going to reach out together to reaching out to the people that had been kicked out of the jail from those terrible conditions. Because we're just trying to convince them to be able to hold that jail accountable. We don't want them to just move them out. We want them to be able to obtain the money that I believe they deserve for being under the squalor conditions, and hold the people accountable that treated them worse than animals. So I'll be meeting with her later today around dinner time.
Well, there was a mouthful. What I want to do is open the floor up, open up the floor for questions, any statements that anyone would like to make. Sure would love to hear from other people.
Oh, Susan, how you doing? I think I missed Susan. Yep.
Wayne, go ahead, Wayne. How are you, Wayne? Welcome.
Doing well. Well, thank you for shining light on this, Brandon. My question is there a specific newspaper or media outlet, magazine, or independent groups that help you get your story out? And is there a particular reporter that you would praise for helping you in your situation?
So early on, it was tough for us because, to be honest, unfortunately, we were, and some of which for good reason, but we were the kind of social lepers for the first year of society, it felt like. And so a lot of people didn't want to touch us. A lot of people were and it was also tough finding that because we're not, we didn't have the contacts when we got in there. But I will say that if you're not related to this, you'll have a lot easier time. And I could speak off of experience with that because I had tried to speak, for instance, to a more left-leaning paper known as, they were the Washingtonian. A lot of us shared a lot of the conditions that we were under, and they heard it, and they only focused on the lighter end. Now, once this stuff was accomplished, or these videos that were released through the Gateway Pundit of mine, they didn't have anything to say. And that was unfortunate because it wasn't just us that was suffering from stuff like this. It was other people. And I think we have to be willing to be able to set aside, which is why I'm glad you guys have had me. I made sure you guys were okay knowing my background before I got to speak here. But we really have to be able to set aside differences, whether you're very, very, you're over here as like a far right person, or you're over here as a very far left person. or somewhere in the middle. We have to be willing to talk to each other and be able to calmly communicate with each other. So to answer your question, though, if you're not in some sort of political environment, you could probably call a decent amount of people. But I've had a lot of success personally with through the Gateway Pundit and Newsmax, a place called Cowboy Logic. I have lots of other media contacts, but those have been the most helpful for me. But again, it's different because they kind of have been more focused on our situations. I think you guys have a lot more options out there. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Did the Epoch Times help you at all?
They did. I actually know a lot of other friends who have actually reached out to them. And I have not specifically spoken to them, but I know they've talked a lot about jail conditions, a decent amount. I highly recommend them as well. I just was speaking from my personal experience.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those questions. And I think you said something very significant. I think Susan should elaborate Pfefferman on what she just said. Susan, let's bring Susan on. She just sent something in the text.
I'm sorry I was teaching until 2:20, but my heart was here. People many times make mistakes for whatever reason, and they are punished for it. And because of that, they are suffering. And then they're put into jail or prison, or they have to go through the whole legal system, and they're still suffering, and their families are suffering. But their suffering should be fair. There are gulags and some terrible prisons around the world which have no respect for human beings. But this nation does. And I have some friends over the years who talked to me about the horrible situation in the DC jails, and they tried to, help the families or whatever. But we really need advocacy to make it fair. People cannot heal and change their bad behavior if they're hurt more by being in prison or feel that is unrighteous. And so it doesn't matter left or right. People are hurting, and we have to help them find their original good characters. And won't go into detail, but my own brother made some very stupid decisions in his life. And in prison, he became a Christian. And so when he got out, he didn't do those bad things anymore. So I didn't have to hit him with anything heavy. He's my younger brother. But not everyone can find God in prison, So we just need to have fairness on all levels of our society, regardless of our political opinions. Thank you.
No, I agree. I thank you for that. Yeah, it's definitely been. I will say that it's been more in DC, right? I live in DC. I was expecting once I was out for it to be a lot more unfriendly than it was. I definitely think for at least in our situation, things are changing, but I worry that, we have a large media presence, a lot of us. And I worry that, they've just temporarily fixed things over at the DC jail. And once we're fully out of there, it may go back to being known as one of the worst places to be. And fortunately, there's a good warden in there. We helped get 2 wardens kicked out of there. We've had Congress members come visit us inside the jail. How we got them fired is, long story short, DC is under the control of Congress. The mayor here sort of acts like a supervisor. I think some of you are from DC, and they were not supposed to not allow them to come in. They were trying to cover up the conditions, trying to stop them from coming in. That was a no-no. And the big thing I think we need transparency, and we need to be able to overlook a lot of the stuff. Because I will say for me, it was a challenge, even more so when I was getting treated horribly and not receiving our constitutional rights to handle that well. It's a challenge specifically for me because I want to not show. I want to make my enemies upset sometimes. Jesus being forgiving is a radical thing in this world. We want vengeance on our people, like the people that hurt us right away. And especially when it's constantly happening, and especially if you don't have church, you don't have a good mentor in there, you don't have a good community. It's really tough to deal with. So Paul dealt with it amazingly. I mean, it's just, I was reading it sometimes, like, yeah, how did he deal with it? Crazy. But yeah, thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Susan. Anyone else would like to share some thoughts?
Hi. My name is
Yes, welcome.
Tina.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you for sharing your experience, and I think it's very important that people learn about the perspectives of the, you know, prisoners. I don't like to use that word, but that's the technical term. And I agree with your sentiment, and I think a lot of people do in general. But me speaking with wardens in the past, like they've kind of given up on the prisoners, so it's like how do you address the root of the problem, right? And I think, well, after thinking about it for many years, the root of the problem is that people just kind of stop caring. They become numb and desensitized, right? Kind of like watching TV, right? Like violence on TV, you kind of start to get desensitized because you're around it so much. And, these people, correction officers, or even the prisoners who are going in and out of jail, have been going in and out of jail throughout their lives. And I'm not talking about you, but just generally speaking, it becomes normal. These conditions become normal. So how do you change that mindset? I think is the root issue, and changing that is extremely difficult because it's normal to some people. Like people being in abusive relationships, domestic violence. It's like someone from the outside is like, whoa, this is not okay. Why don't you get out of that relationship? It's hard when it's normal to them. So I think, we can say, and I'm all for, people getting compensated for the harm that's caused against them in prison cells, and that should not be happening. But I think there's like a bigger problem. It's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on the wound. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think two things to answer your question. Number one, I agree with you. I've noticed a lot of people in there do not care. They don't have the empathy that they should have. Even in the nurses, these nurses, for instance, I also have IBS, and I didn't have fruit for 2 years. Being a nutrition major in college, that was not fun, and that was not helpful whatsoever. These nurses would get irritated. They'd get, you just came over here a couple weeks ago. And it was, you're already suffering in there, and it was not fun. You're trying to seek help, and the people are shutting you down. And, for instance, also, I was very depressed for some time in there, and I went to go see a counselor, and she said, oh, are you suicidal? And I said, well, no. She's like, oh, well, it seems like you're doing okay then. And then she sent me away. And I was like, we need people that actually are, I just like, that's it. That's all we're doing. That's all you're going to say. And we need to ensure that these people are actually, either one, we're hiring people that care, which I recognize it's a tough market, but at least we need to know that there's a sort of like auditing process. The best way to audit it, right? If you're not going to care, at least know that you're being watched. So a lot of these jails do not have body cameras on. It's an easy fix. A lot of the officers think about how much, I actually do support law enforcement overall, but recognize that man is broken, right? Sin is in the world, but we should recognize that not everybody is on the same page. And when people bring in body cameras, people feel less like they can get away with things if they're trying to do that. They think more cautiously about their actions. Hey, what will be the result of this? I'm on camera. I need to be cautious of what I'm doing. And we also need to ensure, for instance, like one of the places I was attacked by guards in the jail was the one area that people know there's no cameras over where the guards know there's no cameras at. We need to ensure that every angle of that place has cameras, besides the bathrooms, because these guards, they can bring you over there and then they attack you and they can say, oh, that didn't happen. That didn't happen that way. I think the best way is to have transparency, be able to have the body cameras for anybody inside the facility, because, if you're getting abused, you have to get over that. Some people don't handle it the right, as well as others. We don't want any sort of abuse in there. That could take years to get over. Maybe you never get over it. Maybe it causes somebody to commit suicide, which is suicide rates in prison are sky high. I think the body cameras for police officers are amazing. We need to push for body cameras in all facilities, and they need to always be on. So we've actually now have that in DC. That was one of the changes that got brought to them. None of their guards are like, if they do not have it, they will get suspended. And if they do that multiple times in the year where they're found not have it on, they're gone. It's not just a yelling, they get yelled at or have a little piece of paper on them. They better ensure that it's on there. So I don't know if you feel like that may partially be one of the ways to answer your question.
No, I think that's a great practical solution to have force people to care. But I guess another question.
Well, of course, we want them to care, but yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it forces them to be on their toes, right? So that's brilliant.
Yeah.
But I guess the follow-up question to that is, funding, right? Because everything comes from taxpayers' money, so you need taxpayers to care, to vote for these kinds of bills and whatnot. So I'm not saying taxpayers don't care. Like, I'm a taxpayer and I care, but I think raising more awareness in communities, and it's hard because you tried, and these news outlets, they tailor things to how they would, like. And so what are some workarounds that you're working on, or some ideas you have that, can circumvent these issues?
Could you just repeat that last part? I was trying to fix the volume. It was breaking.
No, it's fine. Yeah. Just you're having issues with reporting, honest reporting through news outlets. What are some things you've done to try to remediate these issues, to try to get the truth out, try to get taxpayers to care, to vote for representatives who are pushed to care if they don't genuinely care? Yeah, just what are some ideas?
Yeah, well, here's the thing that I've realized, right? Some of the people in here have yelled at me for talking to certain news agencies because they typically, for at least us, aren't willing to share the whole story. They're looking for a certain narrative to push. But I like to try to still, appeal to people's, just appeal to them. Hey, it doesn't matter who we are. I try to talk to them. I try to give them a chance. A lot of the times it doesn't work out well, but at least I gave them an opportunity. But it also, you got to just go out there and hunt for these people. You got to find genuine people. Now there are some stations that, there's some places that I think do better. Like, for instance, I gave a 4-hour interview yesterday to The Atlantic. It's more for a podcast. Now, The Atlantic is very left-leaning, but I'm willing to talk to them. I like the way that they go about it. They fact check a lot of things, and they'll listen to everything, and then they'll double check before they even publish something. I've also given a couple interviews lately where they play the whole story, but it's just, honestly, it's an ongoing thing that we are dealing with right now. Specifically with us, I'm a unique case. Everybody's different. It would be good to ask other people this, but with us, we were specifically really struggling with censorship. Almost all my social media was actually removed, and I was not able to bring up a lot of the stuff when this stuff happened. And I, in case anybody is wondering, I'll just share, I didn't do anything violent. I unfortunately took 2 hits of weed inside a senator's office. So I got 3 years for that. So that was a little bit of a foolish thing for me that I did 3 years ago. But yeah. So, but we've been struggling with censorship. You just got to hunt around. I'm still trying to solve that answer, solve that issue right now.
Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anna, for your questions. Olga, I think she had her hand up. Olga Kennedy. Oh, there she is.
We
There
can't
go.
hear you,
Can you
Olga.
hear me now?
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brandon. It's so nice to meet you today. You're such a
Thank
good
you. You too.
speaker, and you're obviously
Oh,
very,
I was a senator in college and a business owner, so yeah, I got a little practice.
yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
obviously very intelligent and very handsome.
Oh, thank you.
and
I still don't have my gym membership, but yeah.
and you're bold. I mean, you're on here talking to people. So I'm grateful that, it sounds like God's given you a mission.
Yeah, no, I'm honestly very happy. And I'm actually the only January 6th defendant allowed in the DC area because it's honestly really cool how it happened. But yeah, no, I feel a very strong desire. I've just been out here and promoting it. So I appreciate that.
Well, when we think of all the people that are suffering, I know Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Have you met her?
Yeah, I met her in the jail, actually. Yep.
Yeah, because
held her hand during a prayer. So it was cool.
Yeah,
yep.
She went there along with another congressman, right?
Yep.
I remember watching that pretty closely. And she's so bold. She's like a bulldog.
Yeah.
And she doesn't care. Just do what's right. And I don't think she's let go of that bone yet because she was appalled, totally appalled at what she saw there. And I can't imagine her just letting go of that bone, as well as the other congressman that was with her that helped a lot. I don't remember all the details of that, but I know
Troy
that in
Nels,
the
I believe.
What was that?
I believe you may be speaking of Troy Nels. There was like a total of 8 that I've met in there. I'm bad with names though.
Good.
But yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of them are Christian. They're God-believing, God-fearing people, and it's just not right for what they're doing is just blatantly evil. It's like, letting the devil loose in there. No one does anything about it. And I had a friend who was such a sweet guy, and he ended up in that jail that you were in. And he said he was so sick and in so much pain, they would not get him any help. He almost died. He almost died. He did not do anything
Lots of people do die there.
Yeah, he didn't do anything violent. And he's afraid to tell his story because he feels like no one's going to believe him. He said, I think people are going to think
my own family didn't believe me till those videos came out. They thought they were like, something's wrong with Brandon. This isn't happening. And then I released the videos and they were like, they apologized to me. But yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Go ahead, Olga.
Yeah, well, that's why it was so good that Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene actually went there with these other congressmen because they saw it firsthand. So when you say these things, they're like, yeah, he's not lying. And then the people that went there with January 6th, who had not had a trial yet, some of those people did not have a trial. And they were being treated like that, like some were in solitary confinement. They had been proven of anything. Well, hello, like, how does this be America? People were saying, well, this is like, Russia, it's worse. So, I'm going to have to follow up with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and those just to see where it's at right now, like how much is going forward, because there's people there right now. Some are innocent.
Oh, I know. I'm at the DC Vigil every couple nights. So yeah, really? I hear them on the phone sometimes. Yeah, I don't know if you were in, but we have the longest running vigil, jail vigil in the country. It's been it's there every day for like 600 something days now. That's also been very helpful in getting at just people showing up, surrounding the jail, talking to the inmates, giving them phone numbers. Hey, call us if something's happening with the guards inside. Tell us if you're struggling. Tell us if it's too cold inside. And then the people on the outside call in, and it's been very tremendous at multiple jails and prisons at getting them to actually do something, because then they're getting calls and they're saying, hey, we're going to contact the media. Hey, we're going to contact our representatives. We're going to show up to the town halls. It's a lot more effective than the inmate who can't really do much. And it's just been really helpful. So,
well, that's amazing. And you mentioned a little while ago that you had also, what's it called? Asperger's. Some really great, successful people like Elon Musk, he'll come out on stage and say, oh, he'll announce it like he's proud of it. He'll say, well, I have Alzheimer's.
No, I think it was,
But he's a lot of people that have that are very brilliant in some area. They're unusually brilliant in some area. So maybe, God has called you to help his children that are don't have any freedom of speech. And anyway, God bless you in your work.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Olga.
You're welcome.
A lot of things are running through my mind as well,
Yeah.
Brandon. And after this, we'll talk offline another time. But that's why I asked the initial question. For you, it might have been conjure up and recalibrate your thinking and your actions in accordance to the pain that you're receiving. But a lot do not know how to do that, and then to execute it in writing, in a plan. A lot of people that don't know how to do that. So that's why I asked you in the beginning. So what was coming to mind, you had said that there's a whole contingent of African Americans that might not can receive it from you, but you're going to see someone tonight. Mike can be a bridge for that. So where do you see that morphing into maybe a program or something of those who probably have a desire to, but don't know how to execute it, and maybe your program can be a program that can help them execute that type of sentiment that they express to the greater community.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping I can kind of get it more organized and written down, a kind of maybe a step-by-step process of, hey, here is how it's done for people that specifically outside of the DC jail area in case they're struggling with that. Because I have communications with lots of people in different prisons. We have a community out here, and we hear updates about people. We hear if they've been injured or something. So that's what I want to do for the people outside of the DC area. For the people, for instance, the 188 people that were moved out and the people that still were in there during the years that the grievance process was completely broken. That's really what I'm meeting her for, is because she's from the area. And my experience is, this is my opinion. When I spoke to a lot of people, they kind of felt like it was too good to be true. They said, oh, no, it's always been like this. My dad was over in this jail. That we're not going to be successful at doing that. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I try to explain it to them, but a lot of the times I truthfully have had people dismiss it and say, oh, that's just because you're white that they did that. I'm like, no, this isn't like an identity thing. This is this is just I just so happen to be white and sharing this with you. And so I just want to, regardless that I disagree with it, like that it has to come from somebody of the same race. I just want to lower the chances of them dismissing it. And I want to speak to her so maybe they can be better able to receive it. And, we can work together and try to reach out to these people, with her help. So she said she's in talks with lots of people as well. So I'd like to see what I can help her with as well. We had a quick 25-minute phone call, but I said, hey, let's just meet in person and talk. So that'll be worked out. That's my thoughts going into the dinner. So.
Right. So I would say it like this. We don't have to put it on a race. But one thing that came to my mind is there's not a lot of people, especially from the January 6th situation. There's a lot of people, and you can see from listening to you, who have a strong Christian background and strong patriotic background, et cetera, et cetera. So do I. I believe that America was conceived by God for a reason and a divine reason, However, I would maybe put it this way. When you think of Peter, Peter was extremely intelligent. Peter could speak different languages. He was almost like a lawyer. He was extraordinary. But it took him to go through the road of Damascus in order to have a certain conversion. And then he was able to translate the simplicity of Christ's internal loving teaching more effectively to the greater community than other people. And other, the disciples. So when I was thinking, when you go into this community, you go in from a different environment that normally would not have been found in a DC jail, as long as you were. That is able to concretize the situation more effectively, and then have the network to execute certain things to bring in some sustainable So change. So, you know, if we don't want to, you don't put it in a race, but it does put it into a exposure type category of persons that have never, you would never find in a DC jail, if you will, you know, that now has gone there and with eyes are open. That's how God works too, you know, and is able to be the voice of the greater community transcending a race, culture, or religion. And I like what you have been saying so far. Even though your background, you can listen to you're a strong Christian in faith and patriotic, but God maybe have helped you see that there's the other side with the left. It's not their political, their spiritual leaning, but more for you can catch what their philanthropic leaning might be. Humanity, helping the social situation. So can we meet on that platform? Can we meet in that medium right there? And then together, beyond our political differences, make sustainable social change. That's what I'm hearing from your experience. And like to talk with you a little bit more about that a little later on. Just want to open up the door. If you want to say something after me, because I sure will give you some more time. But if anyone else would like to share or open up or have a statement to make, the floor is still open.
Can I comment real quick before somebody does, just so I don't forget? Is that okay? Okay, just real quick. So off of that, I agree with you. So I actually really agree with, like, for instance, I'd prefer a clean environment. I'd like good jails that take care of people. I think our biggest issue is genuinely most people, conservative and left, I think the left are more caring, but I think the right, and this is my opinion, have better policies that are more realistic, that end up helping more overall. And I think, unfortunately, we have terrible communication with each other and aren't good at relaying that. You know, as a conservative, I would love to help all the people in the world, but I don't think it's realistic that we can, for instance, as an example, take in, you know, and have full open borders. I think we're able to help people through the strength of our country and being able to, you know, we can take in people, but I just don't think we can take in absolutely everybody, because that's again, a separating thing. But most people say, you know, some people get closed-minded with it, and maybe the right says, you know, something that hurts the other side, and maybe the left says, you know, you're hateful because you don't want everybody coming in. And real quick to Olga, what Olga had said, I just wanted to say this before I forget this too. I had met Marjorie Taylor Greene when I had to chemically burn my hair off. They didn't give us haircuts, so I had to use chemicals called Magic Shave. So you wipe it on and then you have to pull it off. And you can't see, but I am 30 and I have great hair genes. I'm going to go get some Nutrafol soon because I've damaged my hair because they did not. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, it's thin up at the top. You're not supposed to use it on your head, but you just want to feel human, and you you're looking like a caveman. And so Marjorie Taylor Greene came in and I had ran out of Magic Shave. So I just had I was completely bald, but had sideburns hanging off, and I felt embarrassed. So I had to tuck it around my ear. So she'd probably easily remember me. I look very ridiculous.
Oh, she might really love you, actually.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, sorry. I just wanted to say that stuff before I forgot. So yeah, if
Okay.
there's any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah.
No big problem. Thank you so much. And yeah, I agree. And I think that what we do at UPF is, where do we find a happy medium? Because everybody has some points that has some great validity to it. And sometimes people can get very anal on my thinking, and then we never get anywhere. And then sometimes we pick up guns and fight. There's another reason why guns be a root cause, right? Of to stem criminal behaviors in the name of justice, whatever. There's a variety of things. This is why this seminar or this webinar is very important, because we can categorize them. You know, look at root causes from various angles and various areas. Anyone else would like to share? I saw, maybe she jumped off, and that was Marjorie Rice. she was shaking her head on something you said about people, because she's really a people person, and a person that the power of love really wins out, which is true. It's funny, you watch all these devastating and aggressive and adventurous and criminal and all sorts of movies that are jam-packed with evil intent, but always Hollywood makes it clear that good, the power of good, always wins in the end.
Exactly.
So,
and what I always tell too is it's, oh, I'm sorry.
no, go right ahead. Go ahead.
The other thing, I always tell people too, you know, justice will be brought in this world. If not in this world, in the next. And I mean, good will eventually win. You know, even if we don't see it, it will eventually win.
Yeah, because love is the most powerful force. I believe, most powerful force in the universe. You know, so yeah, I think she jumped off. Anyone else, as we are coming to a close, would like to share a few points, and then we will allow Brandon to have the last words. Anyone else? Like to share? Any questions? If not, then Brandon, I want to give you the floor. I look forward to talking with you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Hey, I definitely will be in touch if you'd like me to speak again, as long as my schedule's open. I'm loving being in DC. I'm talking to lots of people, and I will say a lot of people are shocked because, well, they're shocked to hear, you know, I'm Jewish ethnically, and I know the media, especially around here, it's been the biggest shock. People are like, wait, I thought you guys were anti-Semites. I'm like, well, I've met some of them, but there's a couple that I've met. But the generalizing of people is not good on either platform, whether you're the right, whether you're the left, whether it's based off of color. And it can apply to anybody. So definitely, it's good to have an open mind, and I'm glad that you guys accepted me, because I know for a long time, I mean, even just hearing the word January 6th, you know, could cause a visceral, you know, and an emotional reaction for a lot of people. And sometimes it does here, but I'd just like to thank you guys for having me. If you guys like, you guys can, I'm not a huge social media person, but I am on Facebook. If you just type in Brandon Fellows, I got a picture of me smiling in front of the Capitol building. It's easy to see. If you'd like to add me, I will happily accept you guys. It'd be nice to hear from you if you guys have any questions. I'm a phone call person, but I do eventually get back to messages. So, yeah. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. Again, it was a pleasure having you. I think it was an innovative conversation and insightful. It brings us to another category of violence in America and ultimately in the world, and root causes, and the various other stages that we have discussed. And it's very enlightening, because we have been talking about the jail system and law enforcement, but we have not talked about the inside workings of some of those prisons and the conditions of those prisons. So this particular segment of our program has been quite enlightening. And thank you so much for coming on and being the activist that you are. It was probably already in the cards. God had it in the cards for you. So he had to take you to January 6th over here to DC of all places.
That's a story alone.
Yeah.
But it's great meeting you all. So thank you.
God bless you. God bless everyone. Thank you so much again for coming on. It's always been enriching to have all these great speakers and great thinkers and great hearts that comes on to share with us. God bless you, Brandon. We will be talking. Everyone, God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brandon.
All right. Thank you. All right. Take care. Nice meeting you all. Bye.
God bless.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. God bless you all.
Oh, God, thank you.
Bye. Bye, Brandon.
Wow.
Thank you for
Excellent.
this wonderful opportunity today to
Yes.
learn and listen.
Yes.